Well, welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining today is your city assessor, Chris. Is it Letts?
Leeds.
Dang it! You
It's
probably
all
said
right.
that the last time too,
No,
and I
that's
probably
you
got
said it
wrong.
right last time. It's
Oh man! Well, I didn't really look at the. I don't have it
It's
up in front of me, so.
pronounced grammatically not how it should be, but that's all right. I before E except after C is the rule, but we got EI.
I feel like you've been
Throws
telling
people
this
off.
story for your whole life.
High school, college, whatever, it was always lights, and it's like, that's me.
I was always Bing Crosby, so that.
Oh,
that
sure, that's kind of fun.
just rolls off the tongue
Sure,
for everybody. I'm like,
yeah.
yeah. I had to look it up
Do you
eventually.
sing like Bing Crosby?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Can't get that low. Nope. All right, so we are not here to talk about last names and fixing those. We are here to talk about assessing. We had you on earlier this year to give us an update of what this year was going to be.
Sure.
And just a general understanding of what the assessing is and going on. We're getting close here to the end of your assessing cycle, so to speak. This year was a reevaluation assessment year, so we're going to start there. What does that mean for people who are like, oh boy?
Sure. So the quick version of it is, we've got two types of assessment roles. One's called a maintenance assessment role, and then one is called a revaluation. And there's kind of variations within those revaluations, the scope of work. So in a maintenance year, which is what we did last year, we really just look at physical data changes. So that's going to be, if you take out a permit to add a deck, finish your basement, whatever it might be, that's really the kind of bulk of the value changes you're going to see is real physical data changes, or if we had kind of some errors in our data, we'll change that kind of stuff. In a revaluation year, we look at the same stuff, but we also analyze market trends and data. So on the commercial side, that would mean looking at kind of updated rental income and expense figures. Primarily on the residential side, that just involves looking at sales and kind of determining where our average assessment compared to sale price is. So in a maintenance year, that kind of, in the last few years, we've seen the market kind of expand quite a bit. And so what that means on the residential side is our assessment might be, 10% under the sales price, it might be 20, whatever that may be in a revaluation year. Really, we're just trying to catch back up to what the current market is. The way the state law is written is we're supposed to assess stuff at fair market value. A lot of assessment offices and municipalities don't have the resource to do that every year. It involves a little bit more work, but we're in a good place right now. We are nearing the end of it. We're kind of trying to finalize our analysis work and figure out where we're going.
Is it based on COVID and everything, and just the way things have been going, it feels like just the market prices have just been so high. And
Yeah.
like, as an assessor, how do you wrap your head around what is going on with the housing market and everything and figure out these assessments?
It is, it's a challenge to be sure. This kind of, growth of the market was happening before COVID, I would say. There's been a ton of housing pressure. For quite some time. I bought my first house in 2017, and at the time I thought this is the dumbest thing I'll ever do. This is going to be.
I felt the
there's
same
no
way.
This house is going to be worth it. And then we turned around and sold it, a few years later for a bit more money. And we didn't really do a ton to it. We did kind of some cosmetic stuff, but I think it's really. Outside of COVID, it's kind of more of a supply and demand thing. There's just not a lot of housing, and so I think that's why the city's focus on housing has been important and trying to figure out ways to, get people into housing. And so I think, the sales prices are what they are, and I think, over the course of the last year or so, anecdotally, I think it's kind of calmed a bit. It's still not really in a sustainable place, I don't think, but we're getting there, hopefully.
Well, I think it's good to know because I think I hear from people, not directly coming to me like, hey, Jeremy, answer these assessing questions, but I think they're trying to understand that they bought a house 10 years ago and it's gone up 100,000, then 200,000. You're like, I didn't even do anything to it and it's going up. And you're like, how do you just wrap your head around that? It's just hard to understand, I think.
It really just boils down to supply and demand. There's just not any houses for sale. So I think these subdivisions that have been added here in the city, Highfield Reserve, Terra Vesta, there's been a lot of construction going on, but it's just there's a ton of buyers and not enough houses for all of them. So
yeah. No, and that's been playing out, like you said, way before COVID. I
Yeah.
just throw COVID in there because it just seems like everything kind of got amplified during that time.
It did a little bit. The interest rates were so low, and that's part of the, not problem, but, when you have, the banks, essentially, what was it, I don't know, 2-3% interest rates, it's hard to say no to those prices. So
Now everybody's like, it's too much, but it's like, it's
right.
still really low that compared to what it was, 20 years ago,
Right.
but that's a different story. That's also not here to discuss
Sure.
that. All right, so we're nearing the end here, and that means that notices will be going out.
Yep.
So what does that mean, and what's the date on that?
Sure. So we have every property that changes value, we're required by law to send out a notice of change assessment to. So those will go out on May 17th. Should hit the mail shortly thereafter. And then we jump into what's called open book the week after. So our kind of official start date is May 22nd for open book. Of course, if you get your notice on Monday and you have questions, we'll be here to answer them. But the official open book dates are May 22nd through June 5th is what we're targeting right now. And that's an opportunity, if you're a property owner, to kind of check our work. So if you get an assessment notice and you say, hey, this seems off, give us a call. We're happy to talk about it. We don't, our goal is to have the right answer on your property, and we have, right now, our live parcel count is 10,247 parcels. So there's a lot of data to keep track of. We, attempt to go through houses. Our kind of target is every 5 to 10 years. If stuff changes in your house, if we don't have your data correct, we'd love to have the correct data. So one thing to do when you get that notice, if you think it's off, or even if you don't, we'll put a link out on our part of the website that I think it's on the notice as well, but it'll take you to a website called assessordata.org. You can plug in your address, look at all the property data we have for you, and make sure it's correct. Or if you see something that seems off, then you got an idea of what it might be.
And that information is on our website already. I'm looking
Okay,
at that
great.
link right
I thought
here,
it was,
right now, and it is there. So
Sure. Good.
if not on the assessment notice, for sure on the website
Yeah.
at fitchburgwi.gov under the assessing page. And that open book, again, as you mentioned, this is your chance to ask, don't be afraid to come on at.
Yeah.
That's what you're here for.
That
you are
is.
here to answer those questions. I think that's something that whether you agree or don't agree, you're allowed to. You guys want that interaction,
Right.
so to speak. I mean, there's a lot of people to work with in that short amount of time, but it's your chance.
I mean, that's it's a good. I think most of the staff in my office, I think it's that we all like engaging with folks from the city. So we, if you got any questions, we're doors wide open, and let us know if what you think. If we've got something off, we'd be happy to change it. And so. It's very informal, I would say. It's really just you kind of calling or coming in and saying, hey, here's, how did you get to this conclusion or whatever it might be, and we'll have
I think that's the best part, though. Like, if you're like, oh my gosh, it went up so much, and you're just trying to rationalize. I remember my first time getting one that went up substantially, and I'm like, and I went in there like, oh man, am I gonna?
Yeah.
And it turned out that I got educated pretty quickly, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
So that,
It can seem kind of daunting when you get an increase and you're like, oh my
yeah.
goodness, how could this be? And then there's a lot of that goes into that and behind it, and it's it seems scary on the front end, and it still can be, but it's not the end of the world usually.
And you don't have to agree necessarily. And then there's another part here. So
Yes.
Board of Review is the next step in the process. You're looking at like July there for that. What does that all entail?
That's kind of what we're thinking. So Board of Review is, say you come in during open book and we discuss the value, and maybe you still don't agree with it, or you think that our something's wrong. Like if you say, I don't think my house is worth this, and we kind of think it is based on the sales that we have or whatever it might be. Board of Review is a bit more of a formal setting where you can file an objection with the city clerk and then appear before the Citizens Board of Review. They're a board of, I'm trying to think, I think we have 8 or 9 members.
I believe so.
Appointed by the mayor. And they're essentially here to hear your case, hear our case, and decide on who's right based on kind of state law and everything like that. So they're, it's they call it a quasi-judicial setting. It feels a little bit like a courtroom at times, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's as formal as a court hearing, but it's certainly more formal than open book. So we like to solve the problems.
Yeah.
We like to
absolutely.
solve the problems at open book, but
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think at the end of the day, as long as you know the door is open, you can come in and ask questions. That's what I say. If you don't, if you're not sure, you don't understand, just ask, because I think that's I ask you questions all the time, and I'm
Yeah.
still figuring it out, and that's okay. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
There are resources on the website that explain kind of the different aspects to assessing. So
Yeah.
I'd like to promote that.
Sure, yeah.
People want to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing and the different things that you have going on, even down to what do we do.
Yeah.
You know, it's all there for you at the website.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate the time. You're going to come back in here once you've completed the
Yep.
work. We'll talk about some of the assessment information, review the open book board of review times, and
Yeah.
that will come in a couple of weeks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jeremy.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Happy to
Appreciate
be
it.
here, yeah.
We'll see you soon.